Um, yeah.
Hi, Bhuvanyu, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
We're good. We're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll have to keep your phone stable. My internet
Yeah.
connection is lagging.
So that's sorted, no? So, we were actually speaking about LinkedIn actually becoming Instagram, right?
Mhm.
So, my perspective on that was that if you look at the complete UI design of LinkedIn, it used to be really clunky to use, and most of it was more like sales, like a male design.
Got it.
Whereas when Instagram came out, or even with the likes of TikTok, the whole video interface is so easy to use for people to actually adopt that.
Mhm.
What do you think about that for the likes of Meta? If we can actually be able to regulate the content to actually ensure that the churn is not high.
See, I'm not so worried about churn as I am about it becoming TikTok. See, the thing is from a value proposition side, right? If you build the next TikTok, you won't become like number 2 in the market and have 30% of the market share. You have less than 0.1% of the market share because TikTok is TikTok, right? And now all these apps, Facebook, Instagram, everything is going TikTok approach. So my concern is if we lapse on the moderation and the public perception of what we are becomes TikTok, we're finished. Right? That we run that risk of going in the social media approach. But that being said, somehow LinkedIn has managed until today, and I don't know if this will change, to have that perception that this is a professional network. You cannot put semi-nude pictures here. You cannot talk about random nonsense. But I also see that that's changing, right? With more people being given access to social. And I also believe, right, and this is something that I want to hear from you as well. I also think it has to do with the socioeconomic status of the people that use these platforms, right? Instagram in India is upper middle class, right? Facebook is middle class. TikTok is lower, that's like usually lower middle class and lower class. LinkedIn has always historically in the US and in India been the highest class, like highest earners who get to show their street.
It's like a 1% of India.
And Twitter now has taken its place. I think Twitter now is like intelligence signaling, and then it's LinkedIn, and then all the way down to TikTok, where it's just like jamborees and memes and stuff. So my problem with this is if on our platform we don't have a strong stance on social economic class, we'll be in trouble, right? You cannot segment in any other way. I cannot say that this will only be for digital skills, because suppose some guy comes who does real estate, right, and he puts up his profile on say Meta. Firstly, any AI moderation system is not going to work, right? Because of the breadth of jobs available. But this person, he might use a little bit of digital, he might not use digital, but the minute we let him in, then we'll have to let in the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy, who are slightly more and more and more towards the old school, eventually until you have coal miners sitting on the platform. It's not a bad thing. It's just that then you've lost that socio-economic status, because today a blue-collar worker is not on LinkedIn. Somebody who does mechanical services urban clap is not on LinkedIn, right? And that's what LinkedIn does really well. It's keeping everyone out, and people don't realize this, because on LinkedIn, what really gets your visibility is your, I worked at Facebook, or I did a Harvard, or this and that. But I don't know how to do that on Meta, right? Or we haven't thought that through. So because we didn't want to go that route, we were like, okay, let's go the gaming route. But from the behavioral data that we have right now, people want to express themselves, right? People really want to express themselves. But we need to keep artificial constraints around them expressing themselves. So I don't know what's the best way to.
One way to do that is the content that you're seeing on the platform has to be targeted to the audience that it's already targeted to. We cannot. So Varun's been. I'll just run it through you, Bhuvanyu. Varun's been of the opinion that eventually we should branch out to vernacular content. Maybe you have like Bengali episodes, Assamese episodes, Hindi is okay, but all these other regional language episodes. I think that's going to bring some adulteration, because if this is the criteria, then adulteration is likely to happen. What do you think about that, Bhuvanyu?
So, vernacular content is as of right now growing with ShareChat and other apps as of right now growing. But even in that scale, I'm actually concerned in terms of what the adoption curve for technology is. Because all these social platforms, the ones that are at the moment the biggest, they are like adopting a bell curve kind. So when I say LinkedIn is actually becoming more like Instagram, the motivational speakers or the digital marketers that were earlier advertising on the likes of Instagram, they are now hopping to LinkedIn.
Right.
So that's what I'm actually thinking. So now, when it comes to actually maintaining having a retention on the platform for Meta, at the moment, what you can do is either have some sort of discussion panels like you do on Telegram. So that way, people are going to be. Yeah, so that's what I saw within the teams formation and the discussion platform. But if we are actually able to give some sort of a way to actually people to actually give up. So, for example, me, I was really very much interested in being part of the sales team because I know I have some skill sets that I would be able to give to somebody who is an absolute beginner. So, how can I integrate that? That's my personal opinion. I don't know anyone of you can relate on that. So, that's the thing that I'm thinking about.
Got it. So originally our plan for this was mentorships, right? We can do mentorships, but our problem was how do we rate mentorships? Because the thing is, when you set a power table on a platform where you say this person is better than you, so you learn from this person, the person who's on the lower end of the power table, and we've seen this many times on the platforms that we've worked with, right, that have contracted us, and talk about by us, I mean Avalon. You look at the people below on the lower side of the power table, and then you realize that the person who's lower on the power table will listen to anything that the higher person says.
Right.
Right? Like even if you tell them, you should run one lap around Lal Bagh and stand on your head, and that will make you a better salesperson. The person has no. I mean, they will do that. How table creates that belief. So there's no way for me to rate whether you're a good mentor or a bad mentor, which leads to adulteration of the platform, right? Because eventually you just have crap running around. So for every person like you who's really interested in what you're doing, there are hundreds of people who just want to come in there for the social credibility. So we're not finding a good model around mentorships. Right? We don't know what the best way to do it is.
There's a solution around this. I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of talk over the last decade about buddy programs in colleges.
Which is the
I don't know any college that's been able to successfully execute the buddy program. Manipal couldn't either. There was always a spark, but
buddy program is what one person knows what the other person.
When the first year is coming, the fourth year becomes kind of a mentor.
It's never going to work. It's always
someone's had the buddy program.
I don't know too much about it, however. So one thing to actually see if the dude is credible on the platform that actually wants to put out content on the platform, you can do with the likes of the placement that you will be providing. So because the companies have a very higher strata of the people that they want to hire,
right.
In that manner, what would happen is these people would automatically become much more credible because they have learned and now they are actually earning money because of the value that they got from Meta. They are now credible to give value to the company. They would be hired, be it Facebook, be it Uber, anywhere. And that would be an automatic signaling issue for Meta. What do you think about that?
So do you think it makes sense for you to have live streamed mentor-mentee sessions where it's recorded? Because the minute you have recording it, everyone is more fair and people are not going to give random discussions. And those recordings, whether you're a mentor or student, are going to be used for the placements division. Does that make sense? Is that what you're trying to,
No, I'm actually trying to answer the question that you said that where do we actually manage the power table to see who the person would be credible. So when I am saying that if a person got a placement from a company, that would be the bar that you can set so that this person automatically becomes much more credible that, he got the value from the platform. And because of that, he is able to now provide value to the company wherever he got placed because he will be earning money because of that.
Okay, but I have a question. What is the incentivization for the mentor to continue mentoring people?
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good question. That I was not exactly thinking.
For the first 1-2 times, it's altruistic. You want to help other people.
Right.
But after a while, it stops being about helping other people. After a while, it starts being about, what can I do? What can I make? Very, very, very few, like a small, tiny percentage of the world is actually truly altruistic.
The people who actually who continue to be a mentor to the younger generations, they do it for their personal brand, which is that entire process is being shown to someone else to build that person's brand.
Right.
It beat your personal brand.
Instagram is, don't you think? They are actually selling on Instagram But that may not be for absolute altruistic reasons. But if you can actually build something, build your own brand on Meta, and that would actually retain for a much longer time, and for you to see the churn would be much more lower if we are talking in these terms.
That makes sense. That actually makes sense. It's just that usually when people get placed, they don't tell us where they got placed. Companies will not. We had this problem with jobs fair, right? People don't tell us when they got placed. Companies will not report when they hire someone. There's no incentive for them to. So we're not fully confident about how best to do mentorship, because see, building it is a 3-4 month affair. And suppose we build it and then we realize it doesn't work out, then we lost 3 months. So what we're doing instead is we're fixing what we have on the platform. What we already know it works, right? And we know it works because YouTube, and because we know a lot of people in the education space. We've taken best case practices, put them together. Teams is something which is truly new, right? Which we come up with from scratch by ourselves. But we don't know what else to do with teams. Now that people are in teams, they will interact for the first few days, and then what else? What prevents them from moving to WhatsApp or something, right? After they form a team of 4 people.
Right.
So we have a lot of those questions, and we just, from the markers on teams, right? The beta is only 250 people, but we are seeing that there's a lot of usership in teams. Like people keep coming back.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
I said people are chatting a lot on Teams, right? In Meta.
Okay.
So that's awesome.
Okay.
But we don't know what else. We don't know how long that'll last. Discussions, so far nobody's using discussions, but that's also because it's buggy. It's buggy, and we've kept discussions in the corner of the platform. We'll make it more front and center. That's our job from an experience perspective, user experience perspective. But at this point, it's more about where else do we go now? Your thought that eventually everything becomes TikTok is right? Unless you create socio-economic divide. You say that only higher class people, only middle class people. We don't know if you want to get into that, right? But we also know humans are designed for that. And you also can't divide saying that this is only for digital, all the classes, but only for digital people. That doesn't happen, right? People from everywhere will come and interact with each other, and you at scale, you don't want to say to some random person signing up that you're not allowed to sign up, right? So we don't know how to do it. So yeah, but live stream polls. There's this idea in China right now where most products are sold through live stream. So having people create micro brands with like 400 or 500 people and then come on live stream and sell something, that's very interesting. So yeah, like those are all approaches that we haven't seen yet. But right now the goal is get as big an audience as possible, have them engage at least on discussions and chat, and then slowly see where to take it.
And there's a lot of good stuff that keeps coming on the Meta Beta group, dude. And we've been able to.
Yeah, you're doing a good job with the content and everything. You're doing a good job.
And I think this ability, right, where we get to talk directly to you and to others and everybody else who comes on. No company in India has that. Not one single company.
It's a great. I mean, it's an unfair advantage. That's what Varun.
So very few CEOs are actually doing that at the moment, like Ankur Vajpu or someone like Paras Chopra. So these are the few people that actually do the one-on-one interaction with the brand building focus. Maybe Kunal Shah is doing that a lot on his Instagram.
Right. So Kunal Shah was able to pull that off. Yes.
Yeah, but he's able to pull it off very well.
Yes.
With his Twitter and with his Instagram.
And look how fast he's grown, dude. In a year or two, he's raised about $120 million.
Yeah, I mean, that speed, that ability, that direct connection with customers, only those companies are going to do
that.
That
is gold. I mean, that's validation coming right there. Like we can, rapid test. We can rapid
test.
As long as we have a filter, the entire community is our brain. Like we think as a community. This is what I've been saying. Like this is more of a futuristic thing for me, which is, I think at some point in the future, as we get more and more connected, we're all going to have this hive mind. Right? All these communities are going to have a hive mind. We think of something, somebody does some filtration.
What mind?
Hive mind.
It's a
hive mind.
Right? We all think the same
like
thing.
Thinking.
Yeah, like
so,
thing, right?
We are already doing that on Telegram. Like I am actually part of 7 Avalon groups at the moment, and I think there are almost 15 or 16 on Telegram. So what can I do?
So tell me one thing, right? So tell me one thing, right? I'll give you. This is something that only 98 people right now. Only 98 people will know because you just stay into the deep end of some of our conversations. I see a lot of influencers with like 20, 30,000 followers or even 100,000 followers, 500,000 followers who are like, I can't monetize. It's very hard to monetize.
That's fucking stupid.
Right? And they're like, you know, my audience engages with me, whatever, and I try to sell this bag or whatever. And I'm like, are you fucking stupid? I'll tell you why. Now, you might say that you being a part of Avalon, you have no equity in the company. You're somebody who gives us ideas. We sometimes put in those ideas. We take feedback, we're learning, etc., etc., etc. And a lot of people say, yeah, you know, I'm learning from Avalon. But actually, there's a very, very big advantage that you have and we have that nobody who's not part of the community has. Do you know what that is? It's the ability to both influence and drop markets. Right? And I don't know, like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala is the best example of this. Right? If I say tomorrow, hey guys, there are 10,000 of us, I think Reliance is going to do really well. Why don't we all do Reliance? Now that's not legally allowed right now in India for many reasons, but the influencer culture changed that, right? Because I can do it through two phases. I can say Mukesh Ambani is an awesome person, right? And because I've said Mukesh Ambani is an awesome person and there are 10,000 people on the group and you're a part of the group, you say, well, you know, yeah, maybe we should invest in Reliance, right? So then, being somebody who gets information quickly, right? You're the first receiver of some piece of information. You can trust our ears and trust the ears of all the, like I'll give you an example of how I trust Avalon's ears. Sometimes people post something in the Avalon Army group, which is really interesting. It's tech content. I take it, I put it on Instagram. It does really well.
Yeah.
Right. So they've become my ears. I'm taking it. I'm putting it on Instagram. It's got a lot of clout. I'm getting. I'm using that attention to bring more people to the Avalon Army group. Eventually, we'll reach this sort of critical mass where if I tell you guys there's this new technique now, and I was able to predict. Now, if the next Bitcoin comes in, I'll be able to predict it. I'm pretty sure, right? Because I'll see how the markets move. Even if I'm not the first person, I might definitely not be the first person, but I might definitely be the 5,000th person. If this was 2009 and I said, hey guys, Bitcoin is going to do well, and I did that on Twitter, and there were 4,000 of us, and we all said, well, let's put $1 in. You know what that would be worth today? Right? So we have that advantage of being able to move markets very quickly. Right? Your first mover advantage. So if I tell you guys, this particular tool is the next big thing. If I told you, I always knew Figma was going to be the next big thing, right? Me, Abhinav, all those, Abhinav Chikara, we all knew Figma was going to be the next big thing. If I told you at that time, guys, Figma is going to be the next big thing, and all of you got onto it. And Tana has done this really well, right, with React, where he said, guys, JavaScript is the future. Stop. Yeah, he lashed out at Python. He said, let's not do Python. And because that market movement has actually gone into React. Maybe at a small size, but it's happened. At scale, Tana can literally shut out Python. Right? He could not even he could just be like React, nothing else. Right? So the advantage with that is now all the people on that group will be able to access other React developers, create their own communities, create products, etc., etc. And I know this because I'm not part of this community or anything, but I've known of people like Paul Graham very, very early, right? And I read his essays from a long time ago, and that's how we learn. And all the people who are part of Paul Graham's community in the early days, they're called Y Combinator. They have $65 billion in management. Companies like Stripe, Razorpay, they're all Y Combinator companies, right? So I expect the same thing to happen here. It was just about time.
Yeah, so it would be driven by the feedback only. Like there are two feedback loops going on. One is the feedback that you're getting from the beta group. And then the feedback that you have gotten, you will be able to share with the audience that you have on Instagram or on YouTube. So there are two feedback loops going on. And that's why there would be a first mover advantage wherever you decide to go. So that's what you are basically getting at. Right?
Got it. And not just for us. It's not just for us. We are not concerned about it for Avalon alone. Think about you personally, right? I'm talking about everybody needs, I feel like everybody enters a group because they also have they want a specific incentive for themselves. Now that you are here and you see this fast moving momentum in say, some form of digital marketing, some tool, which maybe Abhinav talks about. And you latch on the tool today and you become an expert in the tool over the next 1 year. India takes 7 to 10 years to catch on to any tool that's popular in the US right now. I tell you, mark my words, write it down. Webflow is going to become super popular in India in 10 years. Everybody will be hiring.
I've started learning that.
Right? So in 10 years, if Webflow is going to become so popular, and I'm teaching it to you for free now, forget about teaching, right? But I've told you this information, and now you know this information that Webflow is going to become popular in 10 years. And
I can take the advantage and actually
Yeah, so I've created a career for you, and that's the advantage of you keeping your ears out. And Avalon basically becomes your ears. But then at scale, that also can kind of dilute the random people, posting random shit. And those are all like some risks. But if we manage to build a good platform, keep our moderation good, it should work. You've seen some companies. Vinay was telling us about some company that did this with yoga or something.
Some network who do network. I don't know who do to where. I don't remember. But some China-based company. I don't remember. I don't remember right now.
Yeah, so a lot of companies are trying this, and it really helps the audience also. And that's the goal, right? If you can help your audience, and if I can help you make money, I make money, right? And I'm telling you one thing, right? After your first million, like money is not the goal. Nobody cares about money. Like that's why if you had 50% equity in a company, and you had an option to sell your company, you'll be very surprised that the people who have 50% equity in the company, if they have the opportunity, they'll sell the company at least for $2 billion. You know why? Because they want to be known as a billionaire. 50% of $2 billion is a billion, right? Because no one wants to be known as a 79.5 million dollar. Like, whatever. No one cares about that. It's either 10 million, 100 million, 500 million, or a billion. It's all like it's status, dude. So more than us making money, it's more about if I can help you do something with your life, create something, get ahead a little bit. 10 years later, you'll remember that. So when I take really big risks, and I want to take really big risks, like 10 years later, 15 years later, maybe medicine or something like that, and I fuck up because those things, medicine, it's complex, right? I could do something and somebody could get hurt, right? I want to make sure that the people behind me are like, who understand why I took that risk. So that's my personal agenda, and I'm sure all these guys have their own personal agendas as well.
Yeah, that actually does make sense. So I won't take up much of your time. And also the Instagram problem with your lives that has been sorted.
No. That's random.
We'll know after this.
That's random.
That's still random.
Yeah, that's Zuckerberg sitting. It's Sunday, dude. Zuckerberg is free now.
We'll know now. We'll know it.
All right. So thanks for coming on, man. Bye-bye.
Yeah, man. Bye-bye.